Hi, this is Emily of Beauties and Headcanons. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
This is Kim Meyer, the host of Choose to Rise here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Choose to Rise, where we talk about living with positive mindsets, how to increase our confidence, building our faith, and living out our life on purpose. A new show comes out via podcast every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And if you want to catch the episode live instead, stop by Public House Media around 6:45 Central Standard Time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday as well. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you'll never miss an episode of Choose to Rise. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Throughout history, the course of sports has been shaped by one thing: the fans.
From the moments you never dreamed of,
to the moments that still give you nightmares.
Behind the bag, it gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it. He's in. Patriots win the Super Bowl. Brady has his fifth.
through the good and the bad, fans have helped change the games we watch and the players we love.
They may not be the most logical people.
You are a factory of sadness. I'll see you Sunday.
But they know their teams better than anybody.
They'll blow in the ninth.
You may not always see them, but you know where to find them.
After all, there's nothing quite like the view from the cheap seats.
Broadcasting is part of the Public House Media Network.
Grab a chair and enjoy all there is in
The cheap seats.
And happy Friday morning to you, Matt Coyne, Jake Holmes, alongside me as always. Jake, how are you doing today?
Well, I'm always doing well. It's always fun to get to talk a little bit about sports, for an hour on Friday mornings and sports. I mean, it's tough to get much better than that. How are you today, Matt?
I'm doing good. With a little cold. It's I don't know for you, but it's cold up in the cheap seats, at least for me. It's last night we had wind chills down to the low 30s, hit high 20s at one point, and it's cold again today. Jeez.
You are insanely lucky. It was yesterday here in Northern Virginia. It was 80 with 100% humidity. It was just disgusting. Big thunderstorms overnight, so it's a little bit better this morning. But so we're gonna manage here. We'll manage. I'm envious of you, brother. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I do love the cold. We've talked about this. The fall. It's just a great time. But with fall, as always, we got it's just a big sports time. But before we get into it, we always like to, we always want to remind you that we are presented here, made possible by squadcast.fm here on the Public House Media. Don't forget, you can always get us on your iTunes, Google Podcast, Spreaker, again, anywhere you can get your podcast. Make sure you download our episodes on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Mondays with Christian and Jonathan, Wednesdays with Max and Tanner, and then Fridays with Jake and Matt. Visit us on our Facebook page, and you can also, on our Facebook page, you can get our daily poll question that comes out with every show. And then I guess that's about it. I think I hit everything there, Jake. But Jake, I mean, I know you knew this, but Wednesday was the Cheap Seats 100th show. Our 100th show. So today is 101. How do you feel about that?
Man, tip them back, man. Let's get it.
Yeah, it's
100 episodes. That's crazy.
Yeah, I can't believe we started this journey back in February and continuing. And, we'd like to thank Public House Media for making this possible. I mean, obviously, if it wasn't for them, if it wasn't for you all who listen, you 5 who listen to the Friday show, thanks, Mom. But seriously, we do appreciate it. So without any further ado, let's get into it this morning. Jake, October brings October baseball, and I don't know about you, but the first round, the first real round of the playoffs in the Major League playoffs was kind of a dud for me, Jake. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? Of course, 4 series for a combined what? It would have been like 13 games.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think only 2 series is won more than 3 games.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty brutal. I mean, normally I was thinking when with Red Sox at Yankees for Game 4, I was like, the Yankees are going to win this. They have to have one to go 5. But no. Boston looks so good, man. I mean, putting up 16 runs in Game 3, and then really could have won by a lot more in Game 4. That's going to be a heck of a series. I don't know about you, Matt, but I think that's the World Series right there is Houston and Boston, the ALCS. Those 2 teams, Alex Bregman tweeted it out. Those are the 2 best teams on the planet, and I 100% agree with him. I think the winner of that series is going to win the World Series.
Yeah, but Jake, I'll be honest. I've been looking at, obviously, with the, with being in Brewer Land, I've been looking at a lot of their stuff, and I'm not saying they're better than the Astros or Red Sox. Don't get me wrong. But, Jake, in their last 4 games, they have given up 3 runs. They have had over 25 innings of shutout baseball. Like, they're just playing out of their mind right now. And, Jake, we've talked about this. This is the time that you're going to want to do it. This is the time that if you're going to get hot, this is the time to get hot. And believe me, I'm not saying that they can beat the Red Sox or even the Astros, but I'm starting to believe in them a little bit more.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. I would not. Yeah, I'm not. This is what I think. I think the winner of the ALCS is going to go on and win the World Series. But like you said, the Milwaukee Brewers. I mean, the thing with baseball is, who gets hot at the right time? Mm-hmm. You look at those San Francisco Giants teams in particular from it was even years, so it would have been like what 20? I can't remember. Gosh, I can't remember. Was it 20? Yeah, 2012 and 2014. Those World Series champions. They got hot at the end of September. Mm-hmm. So you look at those kinds of teams, the teams that aren't necessarily the most talented. Even though I think the Milwaukee Brewers have the National League MVP in Christian Yelich. But, not necessarily the most talented as far as the whole board is concerned. But they're playing their best baseball at the right time. And I saw an interesting stat just, what was it, Wednesday or Thursday? Or, no, not Wednesday or Thursday, Tuesday or Monday, Tuesday, sometime earlier this week. The last time the Milwaukee Brewers lost a game, do you know when the last time they lost a game was?
It's kind of unfair for me to look as I was just looking at their schedule, but I know they're like on a 11, 12, 13 game winning streak, something like that. Actually,
it was September. Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. I'm sorry.
Go. September 21st. Do you know who they played?
It was the Pirates. I actually remember that.
The Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yeah.
Yep, that was the last time they lost. I think that's just unbelievable. It's been almost 3 weeks since they've lost a game. Although, you do have this awkward couple days stretch here in between series. Yeah. But still, it's been almost 3 weeks since they've been in the L column. That's just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's just insane watching. Well, they start tonight with the Dodgers. It's in Milwaukee, and then tomorrow night, Astros are at Fenway. So we'll get started here and see where it goes. But I think it'll be fun to see where this goes because Brewers, I picked them in the regular season, but I did not think they were going to be this hot at the end of the year. So, well, Jake, let's touch on your favorite sport real quick before we go to the break. What's sticking out with you with the NHL so far this year?
Oh man, I'm eating the NHL season is 8 days old now. I just find that so warming. It's of course it's my favorite sport. This is what I grew up on. But what over this first week, it's been a wild first week. A lot of goals are being scored, and actually Wednesday night I was at Knights at Capitals at Capital One Arena in downtown DC, and Lars Eller pregame had they do their pregame interview. He said it absolutely correct. There's been a lot of mumbling and stuff like this is common for a lot of goals being scored early going in an NHL season. It's not. It's just not. This is very unique. And a lot of people think, oh, sloppy defensive play is going to happen early in the season. That's not necessarily true. Every night somebody's scoring 8 goals. What was it, Thursday or Wednesday night, the Flyers put up 7. The night before, the Carolina Hurricanes were putting up 8. So that's really interesting to me. But, I mean, the biggest story, I think, so far at least, has been the inability of the Vegas Golden Knights. I mean, the Vegas Golden Knights, they look so bad right now. And I'll tell you, honestly, like last year, that team was so good. They just figured out ways to win. But I'm telling you, man, I'm watching that blue line, and that blue line is brutal. Their top pairing right now is Colin Miller and Braden McNabb, neither of which are top pairing defensemen in the NHL. And I'm telling you, Evgeny Kuznetsov on Wednesday night absolutely torched him. The Pittsburgh Penguins torched him last night as well. They're not in a good spot. And Marc-Andre Fleury can't single-handedly win them 40 games this year. And that's almost what they're going to be asking him to do. And William Karlsson also is not going to score 43 goals. The Vegas Golden Knights, You look at a lot of teams that are good teams that are struggling over the first week. The one that concerns me the most is the Vegas Golden Knights. I'm just not quite sure about that team.
Yeah. It's been. I'm sure last night a tear came to my eye watching Fleury again against the Penguins, but it's definitely been a strange year, especially like you said with all these goals. It's just insane with especially those first. I mean, what was the Penguins' first game against Capitals 7-6? I mean, just insane. So, well, early in the season, as you say, it is 8 days old. We are when we come back, we are going to be talking about the upcoming NFL weekend. We think we got a good show for you. I know we say that all the time, but there's going to be some for you listeners who've been listening to, especially the Friday edition. Since it started, we have a special thing for you later in the show, as well as Where in the World is Keith? So make sure you stay with Jake and Matt here in the Cheap Seats. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the Cheap Seats. Matt Coyne, Jake Holmes. Jake, I'm in a better mood this week. I'll be honest with you. The Steelers looked like they were NFL. They were a Super Bowl bound team this past week. I guess they do know how to play. I guess they do know how to play defense, and I guess they do know how to play offense. So I was feeling pretty good. I'll be honest with you. Of course, you all know we're going to talk about the Steelers because they're a dumpster. Before last week they were dumpster fire. I'm still not sold on them, but that was a very unstressful game to watch.
Yeah, it was nice. As that first drive with James Conner putting up, I think 59 total yards from scrimmage, I felt a lot better about the entire situation, if you will. Atlanta's in a tough spot right now because literally everyone on defense is hurt. So I'm not getting too excited after last week. But, this is the time of year, right around week 6, week 7, when the Steelers start really putting it together every year. You saw it last year. They started out 3-2, only lost one game down the stretch. Of course, that was the debacle at Heinz Field against the New England Patriots. But yeah, this is the time of year that the Steelers start putting it together. And it's really going to be a really tough test this week against the Cincinnati Bengals. Really, I think a must-win for the Steelers. You drop that game, you go to 2-3-1. Bengals go to 5-1. I think this is a must-win for the Steelers this week.
I 100% agree. I was just talking to a good friend of mine this past week. I told him We were saying I told you last week that, and I think maybe you said that too, is you hate to say that Week 4 games was a must-win, but I think the Atlanta Falcons and the Steelers both were must-win situations last week. And I'll give you, for instance, the Atlanta Falcons are now 3 games out of first place, only 5 weeks into the season. I mean,
and
it's not looking good for them.
No, not at all, and especially whenever you think they already have one game against the New Orleans Saints over with.
Yeah.
So it's not like you take both of them and you only have one game to spot, assuming that you sweep you sweep the Saints. But yeah, I mean, no, I completely agree. I think the Falcons might be completely out of this thing, especially with the way the Panthers playing. The Panthers, of course, they're a solid team. They're not going to be a gimme win. And even the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, even though I think that they've fallen back down to reality and, are playing to what they truly are, which is a not very good team. So,
yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, it's tough sledding for Atlanta. And again, it's so unfortunate. The entire defense, it seems like their entire defensive corps, with the exception of Vic Beasley and Takarius McKinley, it feels like all of them are out because they are. I mean, that would be why it feels that way.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I know we're only 5 weeks into it, but just scrolling down through the standing, it's interesting. The teams that I thought were gonna really still be in this it's not that they're not in it. It's just like you said, starting in the AFC. You got New England tied in first place. I mean, one game top to bottom. I don't think anybody saw that. You have the Bengals. They're not going to keep at the pace they're keeping. But like you said, if they beat the Steelers, yes, this is a must-win, I think, for the Steelers because they're going to be 3 games down. But at the same time, I don't think the Bengals are going to continue the way that they're continuing. And I don't think the Steelers are going to continue on the bad streak that they're on right now. So, and you have the Jaguars at 3-2. It's just, I guess what I'm getting at is it's not that there's anything, crazy going on, except the Chiefs at 5-0. I don't understand how they are just, Patrick Mahomes, he's just playing out of his mind right now, but it's just an interesting year. You got the Redskins, in first place in the East.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, I live in Redskin country now, so I mean that's different. But I mean, the thing is with that division is nobody has a grasp on the NFC East.
No.
I mean, you'd think that the Philadelphia Eagles would. The Philadelphia Eagles, I still think are going to win that division. They're by far the most talented team in that division, in my opinion. You talk about from top to bottom, although it is unfortunate about Jay Ajayi. But here's, I mean, that's just the thing. It's just nobody's taking a grasp on that division right now, and man, Philadelphia. I'm not saying they would have beaten the Minnesota Vikings last week, but they were absolutely hosed on a roughing the passer call by Michael Bennett. I mean, That was brutal.
That was just, it's all of a sudden now they're hitting them low because TJ Watt was the same thing. That one on TJ Watt, it was the same thing. It was actually worse though. I mean, it was a worse call. I'm like, are you kidding? Let's just not get on that, Jake. We'll go down a rabbit hole. But
no, certainly. Yeah.
That's now I'm all worked up. Let's talk about the rookie QBs real quick. I just want to touch on this, get your input here, Jake. So we got Baker Mayfield, we got Josh Rosen, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. All are getting, I think, a fair amount of time. I think it's kind of a dumb question to ask who has been the biggest impact. Because maybe I'm wrong, Jake. I would think you would say Baker Mayfield, but my real question is which one of these 5 has surprised you, whether for the good or the bad?
So, jeez.
Did I put you on the spot?
That's a heck of a question. I honestly probably Baker.
Okay.
I'm a huge Baker Mayfield fan, but just the way. It's just strange because belief in Cleveland, as just optimism in Cleveland. pessimism has just gone to optimism. It's crazy how that can happen so quickly. And it really did that within a matter of one play. Just a few weeks ago against the New York Jets in Cleveland. This was their first win on a Sunday in like 3 years or something last week, as they beat the Baltimore Ravens, which was a huge game. But Baker looks crisp from a football standpoint. He looks crisp. I mean, the ball just comes out of his hand so fast. He leads receivers nice. He knows the cuts. He's playing really well, and I'm happy to see that Baker's doing that. And another thing with Baker that I really like is he knows his role as a rookie. One thing that I was worried about Baker Mayfield coming in. I mean, we know Baker Mayfield. The guy's got an edge. You know what I mean. He's got an edge. I'm surprised that he's kind of taken the reins a little bit, and kind of eased up on all the extra stuff. So that I'm really happy with Baker, and becoming a leader in that locker room. That's what I wanted to see from Baker from the beginning.
Yeah, it's been neat to see these five, because I think everybody thought there was a chance that they would make an immediate impact. The one that's honestly surprised me the most is Lamar Jackson, with how much they're using him. And I'll be honest with you as well, is watching them when they played the Steelers, I don't understand. It's successful. I mean, they beat the Steelers, and when he was in there, the plays for the most part were successful. But I don't understand the purpose of putting Joe Flacco out and wide receiver. I mean, he's not going to catch a ball. He's not going to go out for a. I guess I'm just confused by that. I don't understand why they're putting him out on the outside like he's going to go out for a pass or something.
Yeah, and not only that, I can't imagine that Joe Flacco likes that. I mean, not that matters for anything. I mean, Joe Flacco's Joe Flacco. I mean, Joe Cool, playoff Joe Cool, and then there's the guy that's going to go 6 for 23 and pass for 97 yards and 3 interceptions in a game.
Well, did you see his wife? They interviewed him, and he said that his wife told him that he needs to start acting like he enjoys being out there, and he goes, "I don't enjoy it, so why would I act like it?"
Yeah, I mean, and that's the point. I mean, is that a situation you want your franchise quarterback to be in?
No.
I mean, I don't see how that benefits anyone. I mean, Lamar Jackson, I mean, those little, gadget plays are successful, but I mean, is that really worth it in the end? I mean, those plays aren't going to win him a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just like the Philly special.
I was just going to say,
Eagles win a Super Bowl, despite what everyone wants to tell you. That didn't win them a Super Bowl. Yeah. What won them the Super Bowl is Nick Foles going absolutely crazy. I mean, but yeah, I mean, those plays aren't going to win a Super Bowl. Whatever with the Ravens and Lamar Jackson and what they do.
Yeah, moving forward into this week, it's funny, we always want to talk about the headline and we end up talking about other stuff. But coming, this upcoming weekend, there's a few big games. We already talked about Pittsburgh at Cincinnati. Well, we had Philadelphia and New York last night, and a NFC East, like you said, that's really anybody's right now. We have Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. You got Tampa Bay and Atlanta, which is another big one. You got, let's see, who else do we have here? You got Carolina and Washington, who both of those I think are surprising teams that are playing well this year. Then you got a big one on Sunday night with Kansas City and at New England. New England's had a tough schedule at the beginning of this year. I know they're 3-2, but I mean, they've been playing some tough teams. Obviously, they're playing a first place schedule, but that'll be a fun game to watch, I hope, on Sunday night. I know I'll be looking forward to watching that. But it's another week full of games that in week 5, it's amazing that we're saying this, Jake, that some of these games are kind of a must-win for some of these teams.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, the headliner naturally is Kansas City at New England. I mean, I think that's the one that everyone's looking forward to the most. People are also looking forward to Steelers, the Steelers at Cincinnati. But I mean, another game that I think that a lot of people should be looking at, and call me crazy, is San Diego at Cleveland, or LA at Cleveland.
Yeah.
the congestion in the middle of the pack in the AFC is pretty monumental. I mean, there's a lot of 2 and 3 teams, a lot of 3 and 2 teams, a lot of 2 and 1 teams. As crazy as that sounds, there's 2 of them. But yeah, I mean, that's a big game. I mean, I'm not saying that LA or Cleveland's going to make it to the playoffs, and we should be looking at this that this is going to be one that we look back on in Week 17 or anything. But that's a big game. That's a really big game in tiebreaker scenarios in AFC. Mutual schedule matchups and stuff like that. I mean, I think that LA and Cleveland game is pretty big. I'm sorry, I keep saying San Diego.
No, it's all right. I've been saying it too.
I've been saying it for 25 years. Why stop?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, there's definitely a lot of games that will be a lot of fun to watch. But when we come back, speaking of fun games to watch, Keith Haney has had a lot of opportunities at seeing games this year. We're going to get an update from him from this past week, and then we're going to be seeing where he's heading to this weekend. Stay with Jake and me here in the Cheap Seats.
Well, She sneaks around the world.
And welcome back to the Cheap Seats. Matt Coyne, Jake Holmes, and Keith Haney has just joined us. Keith, how are you doing this week?
Man, Jake, doing well, guys. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great.
Splendid.
Doing great. It's
Splendid.
yeah, it's just a beautiful day. We've been talking about that. Been talking that, October baseball is always so fun to watch. Even though we were talking, Keith, that the first round was kind of a dud. Those four first series were nothing really fun to watch. If you were looking for good games.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Oh, I'm sorry. We were talking about baseball, the first round. First round.
Yeah.
How it wasn't really too exciting, unless you're a Milwaukee fan. You're a Milwaukee fan, right?
I'm a Cubs fan.
Oh, you are a Cubs fan. Okay.
My wife is. Yeah, my wife and I, we've lived on the north side for a couple of years, and she's a tour guide with the Cubs. So
Gotcha. Okay.
You gotta root for the team that helps pay the bills, right?
Absolutely, you do. Yeah, I can't go wrong or be upset with you with that. So, well, Keith, let's just get right into it. This past week, you were in Miami. Got to see the Hurricanes and the Seminoles play against each other. As always, we're just going to ask you the same first question as I always do. What was your first impressions when you got into Miami?
This is going to be really negative to start out with, but Miami fans are a bit much. They're annoying, man.
Interesting.
Miami fans are annoying. Yeah. It's a very cocky, flamboyant fan base. I mean, I guess you would assume that, with the history of the U and the area and the culture of the area, but a very intense kind of in-your-face fan base that you kind of hope will lose.
Interesting. I never. Well, I mean, I guess it kind of. Nah, I don't know. That just interested me. I didn't I didn't picture you saying that, so that's interesting. So, annoying fan base. So, was it? Go a little bit more in depth with that. Was it just like, I know you said they were cocky, they were flamboyant, but
it's
just
there's no sort of like friendly hazing. There's no such thing as like, all right, let me jab you a little bit here and say something slightly derogatory against your team. Not like real trash talking or anything, but just like hey, I'm a different fan and I'm just going to make fun of your team a little bit. You can't do that with Miami fans because they'll get upset.
Wow.
and they'll start yelling at you.
Yeah, so now were you surprised by that, or did you hear that could be possible?
Yes, I was a little surprised by it. I guess Miami, they were pretty good last year obviously, and they've gotten off to a pretty good start this year, but seeing as though they haven't really been in contention for a national championship, right? I mean, they're a good, solid team in the ACC, but everybody knows that the ACC belongs to Clemson. I mean, it just does. And I think I've mentioned I'm on the microphone when I'm at these locations, and like I said, I was joking with the Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and I was saying, Le'Veon Bell's been traded to the Ravens or whatever, and stuff like that, and it's all in good fun. And I said something about the ACC belonging to Clemson, and that's kind of where I got a ton of like backlashes, like, come on guys, whoa, like joking around here, like you guys have a fine football team too. We don't have to get angry about it, but that's just been my personal experience.
Yeah, that's interesting. But this is part of, I guess, what you're doing is traveling around, seeing what the different fan bases are, and they didn't really have much to be cocky about halfway through that game.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. And obviously, any fan base will be discouraged after the first half that Miami had. But again, the crowd and the fans started turning ugly. Like Miami fans started fighting Miami fans.
Wow.
Because one guy didn't say the right thing. One guy wasn't believing in Miami enough, and so the other guy wanted to fight him. They're like, my goodness gracious! It was. You're
not playing. You're in the stands. Like.
Right. Yeah.
Wow. So Well, what about the tailgate? Was there anything exciting about or something that surprised you outside of the stadium, or
Nothing really surprised me. Obviously you like to look at the food and what's kind of being served there, and obviously a large Latino and Cuban influence. So a lot of people doing Cuban sandwiches and taquitos and things like that. So not your typical Midwest tailgate, but of course the alcohol was flowing and a lot of people were drinking up and being merry. But the food that was being served, obviously a big Latino and Cuban influence with that.
Yeah. Jake, you have anything you're interested in about Miami?
Well, probably a lot of Coronas were going. Was that probably the drink of choice down there? I'd imagine, but
it's a college atmosphere, so you still got a lot of poor college students drinking their Keystones,
What is it, the old like Patriot Lights or whatever they?
Right.
But yeah. So I want to know, like, as far as like, is there like a big influence with culture? I know that you mentioned a little bit about the fan base almost having like being cocky. Do you feel like it's because of just the fan base itself, or it's just because of what used to be?
Well, I think a lot of it is because of what used to be. Obviously you have the older fans that remember what it was like with, when it was really with the U, in the late 80s, early 90s there. And then, we can all, somewhat remember what Miami was in the early 2000s with Ken Dorsey and things like that. And with Miami definitely on the uptick, I think, fans are always going to be much more confident when your team is doing well, and Miami just isn't doing that bad. So with the history of what the team is, and just the culture of the area, I guess it's a very confident fan base.
Yeah, that's well, and it seems I figured they'd be a confident fan base. I just didn't think they'd be like arrogant or anything. That's just interesting to me. But the game itself,
they were also playing FSU, so obviously
yes,
fans are going to be a lot more turned up for an FSU game. So.
Yeah. Well, the game itself. So they were playing FSU. Like we said, Miami did not. I mean, Keith, were they? Did I remember? The game wasn't on where I was at. So I was following the score, but did I see right that Miami was down at 1 point, 21-0?
I think they were down. They weren't down 21-0. They were down 27-7 though.
Okay.
And that was early in the second half. Florida State took a punt back for a touchdown, which made it 27-7. It's still very early in the second quarter, in the second half, and it was obviously Florida State was in the driver's seat, but Miami, it just took one touchdown for Miami, and then it was a quick 3-and-out, and then another score, and the Miami defense is really what run, because the Miami offense was sputtering all day. The fans were really turning on the Miami offense when they were on the field, because Mark Richt, he just insisted on running the football on, in situations where you would not run the football on like 3rd and 6, running the football up the middle. And obviously any fan base is going to be upset about that. But it was really the defense that carried them, and a couple of sacks, right in a row, that really got the fan base behind them. I will say this, for the stadium being located where it is, which is about 30 miles off, it was about 30 minutes off of campus, that stadium was packed and it was loud, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there wasn't really one thing. That was actually the next question I had for you. Was there something that really turned the game, or do you think it was just the defense stepping up in the 3-and-out after the touchdown?
Yeah, well, Miami had to go for it on a 4th and goal. They were down by 20 at that point, midway through the third, and they ran a fade route to the corner of the end zone. Wide receiver dropped it on 3rd. and then they had to go back and they ran the exact same play to the exact same receiver, and he caught it this time because he was just going to beat his defensive back. There was no question about it. So that obviously got people pumped up because it was then a 2-score game. It was 27-14, and then right after that, on first and second down, Miami got 2 sacks on Florida State, and the crowd was going absolutely crazy on a 3rd and long, and then, the offense scored right after that, and then, with just the momentum, it was Miami's game after that, no question about it.
Okay. Yeah, that's like I said, I wasn't able to watch it, but I kept watching the score, and then I saw the final. I went, whoa. So did Florida State, did they at all knock on the door once they got 27, or was it pretty much all Miami from there then on out?
Yeah, they got past midfield once or twice, but really, like I said, Miami's defense, they really put the ratchets down on them, and they didn't let loose. They really held on tight on defense for pretty much the entire second half. Florida State's offense didn't do anything. The only points that they scored in the entire second half was their special teams with the punt return. Mm-hmm. So it was all defense for Miami. And Miami's offense, they didn't even play all that well in the second half. Their defense just kept getting them the ball back until they were eventually able to score and get away with the win.
Yeah. All right, so this weekend you are in Baton Rouge. I believe you're already there. Is that correct?
Already in Baton Rouge.
Awesome.
I ate some Raisin Canes. Coach Odron would be happy with me because he's a spokesman for them.
Well, good.
I'm ready to go for it, yeah.
Awesome. So Georgia, LSU, huge game. LSU obviously not as big because they went down last week, but Georgia LSU is going to be huge. LSU Stadium is always one when you see it on TV. It's that big tiger eye on midfield, and just a cool looking stadium. I think they still have I think they're the only stadium that do the 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 painting on the field. But what are you looking forward to the most at this game?
I'm really looking forward to how loud it gets in there because I've had the privilege of being inside Tiger Stadium, not during a game, but just there. And the place is absolutely massive. I think it holds over 90,000 people. And, with the big, huge grandstands on either side and, just the atmosphere of it being a big SEC game against the number 2 team in the country, that place is going to be nuts. And I'm really just looking forward to the atmosphere of it.
Mm-hmm. So who do you have in this game?
Ooh. I would, even with it being LSU at home, only having one loss, I think anybody would be foolish to bet against Georgia unless they're playing Alabama. So I'm going Georgia with this one.
Okay. Well, let's get you. Well, before I get the rest, I'm sure, Jake, you and Keith will want to know that though last week I beat both of you by finishing 3-2. This past week, you two beat both of me. So Ooh. Keith and Jake, you were both 4-1. I was 3-2. Keith, I know you actually. This was after we hung up with you last week, but we all agreed on 4 games. We all said, which is the first time this has happened. The only game that we disagreed in is you and Jake picked Kansas City. And I picked Jacksonville, and it was a really close. Just kidding, it wasn't. Well, actually, I guess it ended up being. No, it wasn't. I'm trying. But anyway, so going into this week, so you have Georgia in the first game. Both of our home teams are in this week's picks. So the next game is going to be Pittsburgh at Cincinnati.
Pittsburgh at Cincy. I'm going Cincinnati.
Okay. Buffalo at Denver.
Buffalo.
Okay, and a huge game Sunday night, Kansas City at New England.
Kansas City.
Whoa, against Tom Brady at home. And
Mahomes is going to do it.
Yes, yeah. He's just playing out of his mind. And then San Francisco at Green Bay.
Well, the Packers need a win, right? I don't think I've bet against the Packers all year yet, which has made me look pretty foolish and like a total homer. But Monday night in Green Bay, they really need a win now. So I'm gonna go with the Packers again.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. I think that's a good pick. But the big important question for you, Keith, is we have been telling our listeners, as you probably know, Keith, I like to do really stupid, pointless drafts on Friday. We've done, I think this is our 6th or 7th one that we've done. This is our 101st show. So we decided that we would go, have a special one. And because it's football season, because you're in full football mode, we are going to have a draft in our next segment of the best football movies of all time. So, Keith, I got to ask you before you head out, what is your favorite football movie of all time?
The garbage-picking, field goal-kicking Philadelphia phenomenon. No, I'm just joking. It's gotta be the worst movie of all time. But I had to say it. I really like Varsity Blues.
That's a good one.
Varsity Blues is really good. But if I have to go with one, I'm gonna go with Little Giants.
That's a good one, Keith. That's a hidden one. I don't think too many people think of when they think of football movies, but it's up there for me. I'm not going to give it away where it might make my top 5, Jake, so don't take it for me. But anyways, Jake, as always, thank you for joining us. Stay safe in Baton Rouge and this weekend. And where are you heading after Baton Rouge?
Going to Clemson.
Ooh,
I think we have South Carolina at Clemson
awesome.
The following week, so
cool.
That'll be interesting as well.
Awesome. Well, as always, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for joining us. Have a fun Saturday, and we'll talk to you next week.
Guys, as always, it's been a pleasure. Take care.
All right, you as well.
Thank you, Keith.
All right, there he goes, Keith Haney. Stick with Jake and Matt. When we come back in the cheap seats, we will be telling you our top 5 football movies of all time. And we know you'll disagree with us, but that's all right. So stick with us here in the cheap seats.
I'm back. Well, she'll ransack Pakistan and run a scan in Scandinavia.
And welcome back to the cheat seats. Matt Coyne, Jake Holmes. Jake, I'm excited. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what it is about these stupid drafts, but I just love them. It makes me feel like I still don't have a purpose in life, but at least it gives it some fun while I don't have a purpose in life. But this is, as we've already said, this is our 101st show. This is the sixth or seventh draft we've had like this. But Jake, before we get started, on top of having no purpose, I decided to go back through all of the Friday show edition drafts, and I took sound bites from each draft, and then the overall number 1 pick. So it didn't take that long. Don't worry, it's okay, Jake. Don't worry about it. But what I want to do is I'm going to play that for y'all before we get into this draft with the number 1 pick. But here it is, our first 5 drafts of the Friday edition Cheap Seats Pointless Drafts.
So we decided to pick, Matt, our top 5 favorite movies.
So my first movie is Mighty Ducks
2?
I think a classic for everyone. Remember the Titans? That was a big one that really just kind of broke me into the sports movie world.
I eat because I'm unhappy. I'm unhappy because I eat.
Which leads to my number 1 overall pick. It's the Joe Montana. It's the Tom Brady of tailgate foods, the burger.
So that's my number 1 overall pick is the Broad. We like to do just pointless stuff here, mainly because I don't know anything. So Jake follows alongside me just to make me feel better about myself.
You idiot!
The best father-son. We have one daughter-father set up here.
Well, I think number 1 overall, you have to go with the Mannings. The first family of sports, Peyton, Eli, with their dad, Archie.
I'm going to go over to baseball here with the second pick and pick the Griffeys. Ken Griffey Jr., Ken Griffey Sr.
It is going to be the hottest debated topic in America. It's the video game sports draft.
My number 1 pick in the video game draft is going to be Tecmo Super Bowl.
But you can't have a greatest sports video game without the greatest athlete of all time. So, Pablo Sanchez and Backyard Baseball, welcome to the squad.
Oh, Jake, that brings a tear to my eye. I'll be honest with you. Going back through listening to those. I don't know about you, but my favorite was, I mean, nothing against you, but probably with Christian picking this was the pre-Jake era. This was when I don't even know if you knew we did this, Jake, but we picked the best sports video games of all time. And Christian and I, people were blowing us up, saying, how dare we left out all these games. We're like, we picked 8 games. I mean, we picked 8 games each. We're going to leave out your favorite game.
So what was your number 1 overall pick for that?
My overall number 1 pick was Tecmo Super Bowl.
Okay. So I didn't know if it was were you limiting yourself to one series or anything like that? No,
well, what we did, the way we did that was there were so many. We just took a list of 16. We just kind of, Christian and myself came up. Actually, Baxter was out that week, so he was a guest host with me. And we just kind of picked 16 that we agreed on. We tried to mix it up between we had a couple baseball, football, hockey, basketball. We had, I think, a WWF game on there. I think we had Tiger Woods, obviously, on there as well. So it was fun putting that together, listening. I mean, I would say a close second is the tailgating food that you and I did here a few weeks back.
Mm-hmm. Oh, man, that was a good one.
Yeah, but, yeah, it's been fun. So today's draft is the best football movies of all time. So we could do sports movies, but we're in football season. There's enough football. Jake, there's enough football movies out there. I think we can easily pull this off to make the top 5 for each of us. So the way we're going to do this, as for the listeners who have listened to this before, you know that sometimes, just like the sports games, we did limit it down to 16. But with a football, Jake and I just said, you know what? We're going to go at it. We're going to do a true draft. We're going to say, hey, if one's picked, you got to go to the next one. So we'll see who it is here. Jake, without further ado, I always like to give my opponent the first round draft pick, or the overall number 1 pick. So, Jake, without further ado, in our 101st episode of The Cheap Seats, what is your greatest football movie of all time?
Well, you're just a gentleman. I mean, it's all there is to it. But I mean, number 1 overall. I mean, I feel like I'd be doing something wrong if I didn't pick Remember the Titans. Denzel, of course, and I mean that really everything that movie represented as far as racial issues and things like that, and Ryan Gosling, one of my least favorite actors of all time, was terrible at corner. So I have to go with Remember the Titans.
Yeah,
number 1 overall.
I wore out a DVD watching that. Baxter and I actually talked about when we did way back one of our first ones. Just talking about, I want to say we did do a sports. It's funny, we just listened to that. Now I forget already. But I remember wearing out. Yes, we did. I am so sorry. We did do a sports movies because I remember my number one pick was Mighty Ducks 2 because I just love that movie. I literally wore out the VHS. But anyways, I did wear out a DVD. I got so many scratches on it. So great first pick. My number one pick, I have to go, Jake, this one is probably going to shock you. Because it is so old. You probably are like, how the heck did you even watch this? Well, being raised in the household that I did, we watched old movies all the time. I tell kids all the time to watch this in the youth group and other places. Knute Rockne, All-American from 1940, Jake, is my number one pick. And people out there are saying, like, are you kidding me? I promise you that movie is just absolutely, I mean, you got Ronald Reagan in there. It is just an amazing movie. Have you ever seen it?
I you know what, I haven't. I've never seen it.
If you can, I know some people can't watch, like they just can't stand watching black and white, but Jake, I promise you, watch it. I promise you will not be disappointed.
Really?
Yes. Huh. Amazing movie. Yep.
Yeah, that's an intriguing first pick. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, I knew you weren't going to take it. That's actually why I gave you first pick.
Well done. Okay, so but you know, back to me here. So number two, it wasn't on it. This might be a little under the radar too. It also might be my age. Friday Night Lights, the movie.
Oh, okay. We just watched that. My wife and I watched that too. Well, we put booby in.
That movie was so great. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but yeah, I mean, one of my favorite movies growing up was Friday Night Lights. Yeah, so that's my number two.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go with a classic. I'm actually surprised / happy that it's still here for me, but I gotta go Rudy at number two. That is one of those movies, along with Brian's song, that will make any grown man cry at the drop of a hat. So number two, going Rudy.
Good pick. Thank you. I mean, it's there on the board. I mean, it was Saquon Barkley at 2. You know, I mean, he's there on the board. You got to take him. You know, but yeah. So for me, my third. Also, again, it's like my age, because it was like I thought I was so cool at like 12 years old when this movie came out. It was Adam Sandler's Longest Yard.
Oh yes, that's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, that cast is unbelievable. Yeah. I never even realized it. Gosh, who was like old professional football players? Of course, he had pro wrestler Stone Cold Steve Austin was in that.
You had Goldberg in there. Yeah,
Goldberg was in it. How great was that?
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, the great Khali too. Yeah, the great Khali was in there as well. Yeah,
you had who was the rapper in there? I can't think of his name.
Oh, Nelly.
Yes.
Nelly
Why can I think of Nelly?
Nelly was Megan.
Yeah.
And I also think wasn't Exhibit in there? No, that was Gridiron Gang.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes in all sports movies is whenever Adam Sandler hits the ref and the and Cheeseburger goes, "You always have to protect the McNuggets."
Terry Crews. Yes. Cheeseburger Eddie. So funny.
Such a good movie. Yeah, great pick. All right. So far you have Remember the Titans, Friday Night Lights, Longest Yard. So you're staying right here in the 90s, and then here's me jumping from the 40s to the 80s. My next one is, I'm actually going to go to the 90s, and Keith actually already said it. He already said it. Little Giants. That was a staple for me when I was a kid. But that was one of my favorite. Well, obviously one of my favorite movies. One of those movies where you watch it and it takes you back to your childhood.
Yep. Yeah. No. That's definitely definitely get you there. So yeah, man, my number 4. There's so many good ones, but I'm just trying to think of the best one. One movie that was really popular where I grew up, in particular in Northeast PA, pretty close to the New York State border, was The Express, the story of Ernie Davis.
I've never seen that, actually.
Yeah, that was a very big movie, like where I grew up, being so close to. I mean, it's Pennsylvania, but it's very close to it's very close to Syracuse, New York. But yeah, I mean, first African American man to win the Heisman, that would be my number 4.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go. Jake, I just realized I literally have a movie from the 40s, the 80s, the 90s, and I'm about to add the 2000s with one of. I don't know why I'm saying one of my favorite movies. This is why this is my top 5. Of course, it's one of my favorite movies. But The Replacements.
No.
Yes, I stole one.
I thought I was gonna steal it.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, that was such a good movie. I think it's an underrated football movie. But yeah, definitely a good one.
Oh man, unreal. But you know what? My last pick, I feel like I have a real. Not even a diamond in the rough with my last pick. I think it's one of the best. Another Adam Sandler. Do you know where I'm going?
Oh, Waterboy.
Can't
believe I didn't think of that one. Wow.
Kathy Bates as Mama. I mean, just fantastic. That's one of those movies where you can like literally. It's been 20 years since it's come out, but you can still quote it and people will still get it. People, Mama said, like, it's
oh yeah, you still get it. Yeah. Wow. That's a good pick. Good pick. Well, your 5 are Remember the Titans, Friday Night Lights, Longest Yard, The Express, and Waterboy. Mine so far is Knute Rockne, or Newt Rockne, however you want to say it, Rudy, Little Giants, The Replacements, and I am going to round out my top 5 with, I really can't decide between 2 movies. I wish I had a 6th man, but I don't. So, I'm going to have to go, man, I cannot decide. I'm just going to tell you the 2 I'm deciding to. Is it okay?
Yes.
You ready?
Yeah.
We Are Marshall and Any Given Sunday.
Oh, man.
I can't
Flip
decide.
a coin.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go with We Are Marshall. I think it's oh man, Any Given Sunday. No, I'm going to go We Are Marshall. That was my gut instinct. That's what I'm going with. So there you have it. Jake's top 5, my top 5. You know the poll question is going to have to do with this poll question, or with our draft. So make sure you go on and visit. It's going to be what was the biggest snub out of our top 5. We're not going to give that to you because Jake and I are going to talk over that here. It'll be put up on the Cheap Seats Facebook page, and we'll make sure you make sure you jump on to vote for that. Jake, how do you feel about your top 5?
Man, you know what, with some of these drafts, any combination of 5 would be pretty good. So I'm feeling pretty good. I feel good about both of ours.
Good. Yes. Yeah, I do too. Well, thanks for doing that. I think that's a lot of fun. I think it gets people talking. I think it gets our listeners talking. It's, people, you have that movie that, that hits you close to home. We always have those movies in football. Obviously this is the time of the year that people are thinking about it the most. So, make sure again, you jump on our, Chief Seats Facebook page to answer what was the biggest snub out of the draft, or out of our draft. And then make sure you also, like I said, you can always listen to us on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you can get your podcast. And I think that's about all I have. Jake, do you have anything for our listeners before we head out of here?
Oh, we have to make our picks, don't we?
We do have to make our picks. Oh, my gosh. Oh, I'm glad you said something. I got so excited and off topic here. All right, let's make our picks real quick. So Keith already made his picks, and Jake. So the first game is Georgia at LSU.
So Keith picked Georgia, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Oh, man, a part of me wants to pick LSU, but I am going to pick Georgia. I think they're the better team. I think that they're going to go into death. I think that they're going to go to Baton Rouge and take a win by 7 points. I'll say 7.
I really want to disagree with both of you again, but that didn't turn out well for me last week. So I'm going to go Georgia as well. Then we have Pittsburgh at Cincinnati.
I'm picking the Steelers. They don't lose to Cincinnati. I know that I said that a couple weeks ago with losing to rookie quarterbacks, although I was an idiot, and that still haunts me this day that I said that, because obviously Pat Mahomes isn't a rookie. He was Alex Smith's backup last year, but it still bothers me. But that I made a Freudian slip. But yeah, Pittsburgh doesn't lose to Cincinnati. They're not going to this weekend.
All right, so then I have Buffalo at Denver.
Let's go Buffalo. I believe in Josh Allen. They're a weird team, Buffalo.
They are, yeah.
They look like...
One week they're great, 1 week they're bad.
Yeah, I mean, they've beaten Tennessee and destroyed Minnesota, but they lose like the worst teams possible.
Yeah.
So, but I'm gonna pick the Bills.
All right, I'm going to actually Denver. I don't know why. Just feel like 2 bad teams. Gonna pick Denver. Big game Sunday night, Kansas City at New England.
Kansas City.
I
think the Chiefs. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Tom Brady. I'm gonna disagree with you. And I said I wasn't gonna disagree with you and Keith, and that's 2 in a row I have. And then the last game, San Francisco at Green Bay.
Green Bay is gonna win by a ton.
Yep, I'm picking Green Bay as well. I just picked that because it was a Monday night game. So now, Jake, because we are running out of time, do you have any closing thoughts for our listeners?
Of course, I'm gonna close this out with not hockey. Surprisingly,
Whoa!
I'm gonna go a little college football. How about that? But yeah, I mean the Penn State Nittany Lions. You know the show. Both you and I are Penn State fans, but didn't even play last week and went up 3 spots in the standings.
Yeah, not a bad week.
And not a bad week. It was a heck of a lot better than the week before. But
yeah,
I'm really intrigued to see this game against Michigan State. This was a game last year that really cost Penn State a shot to go to the playoffs, and they just lost a dud in a monsoon at Michigan State. So I'm really looking forward to see this. If James Franklin, isn't an idiot, and coaches a better game than what he did in Happy Valley 2 weeks ago, he's had enough time to work this and try to make things right, and this would be a good opportunity for Penn State to do so.
Yeah, a lot of good games for tomorrow for college. Good games on Sunday. As always, thank you so much for joining us here on the Friday edition of the Cheap Seats. Make sure you join us again on Monday with Christian and Jonathan, and then again Wednesday with Max and Tanner. And then we hope that you join us next Friday here with Jake and Matt. We hope you have a wonderful weekend. A special thanks, as always, to Keith Haney for joining us. Make sure one last reminder, jump on the Cheap Seats Facebook page and let us know who you think the biggest snub was. And make sure you comment what your favorite football movie is of all time. Again, thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend.